So, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us this week for the darwin.Cloud doc storage review. So today we're going to go over document storage and the wide variety of places that you can use doc storage. There's tons and tons more ways of using doc storage in darwin.Cloud than we've ever had in the history of Account Tech. Teresa, you'll be monitoring
Yep.
the chat. You want to give everybody some guidance and then we'll
Yeah.
get started.
Yeah. If you guys have questions along the way, just go ahead and you can type in the chat, and we've got a couple of us that'll be monitoring that. So we can answer those questions. And if we need to interrupt Mark to bring up the question to the entire group, we'll do that as well. But yeah, just type those in chat. We'll take care of you.
And if I get a little better than I have been in the past, I'll try to remember to stop now and
Yeah.
one and check in with you guys.
Sounds good.
All right. So again, today's all about darwin.Cloud document storage, and we're going to look at all, as much as we can, all the different kinds of documents that you can store in darwin.Cloud now, and a little bit about where you store them and how you store them. And then tomorrow on Wednesday's webinar, at the same time, anybody that wants to go over in depth how to take advantage of all the different features in darwin.Cloud storage. Tomorrow will just be a workshop on specifically customer by customer. Anybody who wants to call in will give you hands-on help on how to use the storage. All right, so let's get going. So the main thing about darwin.Cloud is now essentially every type of record in Darwin has document storage. It used to be we only had document storage for properties, and that document storage wasn't even located in Darwin. It was located in the old website many of you have used who've been with us for a decade or two, called Transaction Plan. Now it's all coordinated in Darwin, but it's not just properties now that have document storage. Almost everything has document storage, and we'll be looking at that. You can upload an unlimited number of documents to any kind of any kind of record in Darwin. You can deliver the documents by email if you don't want to click and upload them from your computer, or if you want to have somebody outside your company, like a buyer or a seller or a mortgage company or a photographer, email documents in. You can email them even if they're not Darwin users. And we're going to talk about how you can use documents to get answers from people through text message chat from Darwin if you need them to review or look at documents that are inside of Darwin. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's just start with the fundamentals. We'll start with properties. So in Darwin, when you're looking at properties, if you go down here to the Documents button, all of the documents that you have uploaded are visible here, and you just click on the hyperlink here and you can view the document. Again, there's no limit to how many documents that you can have uploaded on every property. Now, you might see over here, right over here on the right, on the top of the page, it says doc email. And when you click this hyperlink, if there's not an email already assigned, the system is going to pop up a suggested email address for this house. You can accept the property suggestion, but you'd probably be better off to shorten the suggestion. So the Darwin is suggesting that you give this house an email address that's kind of like the whole address of the house. What I would recommend you do is shorten it, like in this case, change the email to be 200 North Main or something. Now, every email address for every house has to be unique. You can't use an email address that somebody in some other company has used. But after you've modified this email address to something that's a little bit easier to remember, click the check availability, see if the email address that you've selected is available, and if so, click Save. With that being done, if you're in Google and you send an email to that email address and you attach a document, or you attach multiple documents, all those documents are going to load up to Darwin and they're going to save in Darwin and with the original file name that you uploaded. Now, if you're only sending like one document, for instance, you might want to, this is optional, but you might want to include a subject line. And that subject line will become part of the description that you can see when you view the document in Darwin. So a perfect use case for this is if, again, if you have a seller that needs to send you a document, if you have a title company that needs to send you a document, give this email address to them. They're not Darwin users, but they can upload documents for you by email. And so you can see this document from that prior screen, the email screen, you can see the document, the file name is here, and the subject line from the email became the description for the document when it was uploaded. Now, something else I want to show you, it's kind of related to documents, kind of not. So here we see the documents that are uploaded for a property. And if we go to the media stream, we see, oops, I went too far on that. If we go to the next item down under media stream, we see pictures that are uploaded for the property. Now, normally pictures get in to Darwin because they come in from the MLS, they load here, and then if your company uses Dash, these pictures get sent up to Dash. Now, pictures and videos don't have to come from the MLS. You can click add multiple photos and you can just upload an unlimited number of photos. And if you want to, you can edit the photos by just clicking edit multiple photos, and you can use that to change the photo name or to change the sort order on the photos. But the thing that I wanted to point out to you was the doc email. Up here it says doc email. It's an email address, and it's the same whether you're on the property page or you're on the picture page. So this is important. When you're sending an email to Darwin, if the files that are sending in are image files like JPEGs or PNGs, Darwin's smart enough to know to load those in as pictures on the picture screen. But if it ends in PDFs, it's smart enough to put them on the document screen. So for instance, if your house has an email address and you have a photographer that's doing your photography for your new listing and they don't work for you, you can just give them this email address and they can deliver the photos by email. The photos will appear here. And as soon as the photos appear here, let's say from the email from the photographer, then the system will see them and realize that's something that Dash needs to know about, and the photos will get uploaded to Dash. There's just one other thing I want to show you, and this has to do with documents. Sometimes you'll see over here it says one view, two views, three views, like that, in terms of the documents that are here. And if you were to click on that one view, I'll show it to you later, but if you click on that one view, it will show you who viewed that document and when did they view it. So that could be important if you have documents that are loaded up into Darwin and somebody in your company is supposed to review the documents and make sure that they're okay. So the documents get delivered by email and a transaction coordinator or a manager or something is supposed to look at the documents. If you look here and the staff person tells you the documents are all good, but you look here and you can see that they haven't been viewed, well, then you know they probably didn't look at the documents because they didn't even open them. So anyway, that's what it's for. So you can see who saw the documents and when did they look at it. Teresa, I'm going to stop for a second.
Yeah.
Questions so far?
Yeah, we've got so one was asking about file size, and I just actually experimented and had a 17 meg file uploaded, not a problem. So that didn't seem to be an
Yeah,
issue as far as file size.
there is no file size limit, no.
Okay. And then the other one was Donna was asking if there is a notification that you get when a document gets uploaded to Darwin by an outside entity. So if they used that email address to like scan something or send something in, is there any kind of notification to the folks that are working in Darwin?
There absolutely is. And I'm not logged into Darwin right now. Is Adam or Teresa or either one of you logged in?
I am.
Can you show your screen? Because I don't remember where the screen is.
Okay.
Notifications is something that you can turn off or turn on for a number of different events that happen in Darwin. It's been so long since I've looked at it, but
So in
it's pretty darn
notifications.
useful. No, I think it's over in tools.
Okay.
Oh, maybe it's under tools. It's maybe I don't remember where it is. Can you go to settings?
Be under application
No, let's go
settings.
to maybe it is in no, maybe it is in notification. I just can't remember. Let's go to company and let's go to notifications. I'm trying to remember where you set it. Well, I'll try to teach it.
Yeah, I'll keep
I'll
taking
try
a
to
look,
find
but
it.
I think I know where you're trying to look for. So I'll keep looking while
Yeah, because there's one
going.
like if somebody uploads a document, if somebody deletes a
That somebody gets
document,
notified.
if someone finishes a
Mhm.
timeline task, if you add a timeline task. Yeah, there's a whole series of them. I just don't remember where it is. Okay, let me go back to sharing my screen then.
Okay.
Okay. So one other thing, I don't know if you'll have a use for it or not, but when you have documents here, you see this little checkbox here where it says send email. I click this one and it checks off everything. Anybody that works in the online space, everybody knows that the correct security posture you're supposed to have is that every document that you have online, if it's digital, should always be in two distinct places that are unrelated to each other. So people that practice really good security management, what they do with their documents that are here in account text, for some people, account tech is where they store their second copy, but most people, where they store documents that they put in account tech could be, if they don't use, let's say, DocuSign or SkySlope, account tech could be primary for where you store documents. If you use one of those systems, when you get to the end of it, from those systems, you can email all those documents into account tech, and the account tech becomes your second online storage location. But if, for instance, if you want to have your secondary online storage be SkySlope, or you want to have it be a Google Drive you have in your company or something, you can click off which documents you want to send out by email from Darwin. Click the email docs button up here, and it'll ask you for an email address that you want to send the documents to. And anything that you've selected gets delivered to whatever email address you typed from Darwin to wherever you want it to go. So again, try to get your documents in two locations, and this is just a tool to help you do it. You could also use it if you've got a HUD or some other document that a buyer or a seller wants. It's a quick, easy way to send documents from here without even having to download them and then go to email and then attach them and then upload. You could just email them out right from here. Moving on. So let's take a look now at people documents. So for agents, you could have all kinds of documents. If I get an agent up on the screen and I go down to documents, I might have a copy of their ICA agreement. I might have a copy of their real estate license. Who knows, Can have all kinds of different copies up here, their driver's license, whatever. You can store any kind of documents you want on agents here. And um, just like you have with properties, an agent might have their own email address, their own personal email address, Emily Knight at Gmail, for instance. But the profile of Emily inside of Account Tech could have another email address called Emily Knight Documents at accounttech.com or whatever. You click no email, just like you do with properties. and you can create an @account tech address for Emily so that if you need or want to deliver documents by email to Emily's profile, that's a way you can get docs stored on the person profile. Now, that's the typical use case for that is for agents. But it could be you've got a big enterprise contract with your utility company or a maintenance company or whatever. So maybe you've got a contract with one of your vendors. So you open up the supplier record and you store a copy of the supplier contract on the supplier person. So just because the person's not an agent, let's say they're a supplier, they're still in the system as a person. So you could store documents there for suppliers. But here's another idea, buyers and sellers. So let's say with a buyer, you've got a buyer agency agreement. Maybe you've got a buyer agency agreement before they've even picked a property they're going to buy, before they're even in contract. So there's where you could put documents associated with that buyer or seller before they're even in a pending transaction. But I want to give you another couple of other ideas. You could use darwin.Cloud to kind of create a repository for other kind of things that you need to keep at your ownership. So that you need to keep for the ownership. So let me show you. So let's say you have a well, here, let me go back here. I want to explain this a little bit better. With the people records, well, you know what? I'll leave that till the end. We're going to talk about some people records that are not particularly property record, not particularly accounting records, but you might want to use Darwin as a place where you store critical company information or copies of critical documents. I'll cover that at the end of the webinar. Let's just start with accounting records first. You have all kinds of different accounting records in account tech, from invoices to bills to bank deposits, whatever. For all of that, you can store accounting record documents right here in darwin.Cloud now. So let's just take a look at this. So here I'm looking at an invoice that I sent out to a mortgage company that leases space from me. So you're on the sales here, you're on the invoices screen. This is just a basic invoice. Well, if you look now in darwin.Cloud over here to the right, one, two, three, no, the third tab here, it says scanned images. If you click there, you have documents for this invoice. So maybe you have a PDF copy of the invoice. Maybe you printed out a PDF copy of the invoice so that you could send it to the mortgage company. Or maybe when they give you a check, you like to photocopy the check that paid this bill, and maybe you want to store it with the invoice. So it could be the invoice comes in, you click on scanned images, and you can see the copy of the check that the mortgage company gave you to pay the bill. Now, it's also possible, over here, when you're looking at an invoice, I'm sure everybody knows that if you go over here to the fifth tab, you can see the payment that the customer gave you to pay the bill, and you can see the deposit slip where you took that payment and put it on a deposit and take it to the bank. You can see both of them here. If I click on this payment, which is a record of the payment that came in, then what you can see is here's a copy of the payment that came in. It paid this invoice. And again, on the payment screen, if you go to scanned images, you can put a copy of the check there. Likewise, if you go back to the payments, back to the invoice, and you click on the deposit, this deposit thing here will take you right to the bank deposit, and the deposit screen has a scanned image. So this is something, for instance, for all of our full service accounting customers, we always make sure, because we do the bank recs, we want to make sure that we can proof the deposits that are in the bank. So we always ask them when they make a bank deposit to upload a copy of the deposit slip. So when we're reconciling the bank account, we can proof the bank deposit against a copy of the deposit slip. And where do we store the deposit slip? We store it right on the deposit. Okay, let's take a look then. Oh, and here's an image of the viewer. Okay, so let's take a look now at paying bills. So a bill comes in from some vendor and you charge the bill to different offices that you have. Well, the most typical and frankly, the most common use case in Darwin for accounting documents is to store copies of the bills. So someone charges you for something, you put it in Darwin so that you can pay it, but here's a copy of the bill. So this way, for a broker owner who's looking at some bills that you've paid, looks at the expenses, they actually, at their fingertips, have a copy of the bill that you paid to take all the ambiguity out of knowing, well, what the heck was that bill for and why did we pay so much money? But just to remember, if you go to payments, just like you do with invoices, if you look at the payment that you created to either by direct deposit or e-check or just doing an old-fashioned paper check, you can click here on scanned images and you can store a copy of the check. If you're mailing paper checks, you can store a copy of the check that you mail to the supplier. Now, it could also be that you have your journal entries here for your payroll costs. Either you manually put in the payroll or you upload the payroll expense from the report that comes from the payroll provider. Well, whenever you're posting payroll expenses, there's always a report from the payroll company for that week's payroll. So you can store the payroll right in the journal entry to proof, well, we had $2,400 of payroll this week, and here's the image that proves what it was. So you can even put documents on journal entries. But now to wrap up, I want to talk about some kind of unconventional uses of Darwin Cloud for document storage. So let's say you had a person in your company who was the owner, and you had them in as a person in the Darwin person records. Maybe for the owner of the company, you upload copies of all the tax returns. It's very common. You're applying for credit, you're applying for a loan, you're applying for Forte, for God's sakes, and you need copies of your tax returns. Instead of trying to figure out where did you store them on the Google Drive or where are they in the file cabinet, maybe you put copies of the tax returns on a person record for the owner right inside of Darwin. A very similar use case is if you have a partner in your company or there's different partners that have partial ownership of the corporation, when they get a disbursement, the disbursements are always issued on a K-1 report. A K-1 to a partner is like a 1099 to an agent, right? Because they don't get earnings, they get profit distributions. Well, why not store copies of all the K-1 files for the business partners, store them here in Darwin, so when they need the K-1, which they definitely will need for their tax return, you've got another copy of it. So that might be something that you could do. It could also be, and this happens to me and Reza all the time, we wind up needing copies of contracts we've signed or government documents that we have. Like we have a document of an EIN number for the company. We have documents for the government about our authorization to file people's 1099 taxes for them. All these different official government forms. We have a person record that is the company, and we store copies of like important government documents so we don't have to go looking for them. Likewise, if you own a franchise and it renews every 5 years or something, maybe you want to upload copies of your franchise agreements. So again, when you need them, you don't need to go looking for them. So that's a little bit of an unconventional way to use Darwin storage, but it's highly secure and it's very well organized. So that might be another way you want to think about using documents. All right. I'm going to wrap up with just one last thing, and this is the idea of chat with documents. I hope everybody has started to explore the chat feature that's available right down here, where you can click this little chat button and you can send a text message from Darwin to anybody that has a mobile phone, buyer, seller, owner, agent, employee, whatever. Anybody with a mobile phone, you can send them a text message and they can reply by text message. But here's a very special use case. Let's say you're looking at a bunch of documents for a property and you have a question about it and you want to get an immediate answer. So you want to text the agent with your question. Well, what we've done with Darwin Cloud is over here, there's a little green button under the header, copy the link. And you can click there and copy the URL link that points to that document online. So then when you go to send a text message chat, so you click here and you copy the URL that, let's say, points to the HUD. Then you open up the chat window and you send them a little message and you can paste the URL into the chat message. And this guy, Joe, who's the owner, he's going to get a copy of this as a text message with this hyperlink in it. And then from his phone, he can click and open the hyperlink and it'll open that document without having a Darwin login, without having any kind of security to get into Darwin. But you're giving him a URL where we store all these documents in Google Drive. So this gives them this big long link, but it'll open up their HUD document for them. But another use case, let's say, oh, I don't have a document for it, but let's say you get a bill in from a supplier and it's a really large bill, or you get a bill in on a credit card statement and it's a there's some really confusing charges on there and you don't know at all what they are. Well, you can load those documents up to Darwin, copy the URL link, and then text message to the accounting manager, text message to the CFO, text message to the owner and say, hey, what is these crazy charges on the credit card bill? Or this bill is really huge. Is it okay to pay it or something like that? And they can reply by text message because they're out on the road, they're on their phone, but they'll be able to, from their phone, they'll have the hyperlink to the document. They can view the document on their phone with the hyperlink, and then they can answer your query using chat. So this copy the hyperlink that points to the document is, of course, you could copy the hyperlink and paste it into an email too, if you want to send somebody an email to ask them a question about a document. But I think copying the URL hyperlinks to documents and then putting it in a chat so that they get it as a text message, I think that's really the most powerful use case. And that's it. That's all I have. So, Teresa, what else do we have for questions or things that we can talk about?
Yeah, a question came up when you email a document from Darwin. Is there a
Mhm.
place in the system that will show that it was sent, like a sent confirmation? I didn't see
So
anything, but
I have no idea about that. But if you
yeah,
send it, let's say, if you send it as a text message, it's 100% logged.
right,
So if you send
right.
it as a text, it's in the history, it's in the message history of the person or the message history of the property. But if
Mhm.
you copy the URL, if you copy the URL and then leave Darwin and go to Gmail and paste it in there and send it, I don't think we have a record of that.
Yeah, and when you click on the like email docs, like in the property, let's
Mhm.
say there's a document, you click on email docs. I went through and just tested out sending a document by email, and I don't see anything that says, the email was sent and it's not in the history log. So,
You know what would be a really good idea though? I don't know why we never thought of this before.
mhm.
You know how here we have a count of everybody that viewed this document and when they
Mhm.
viewed it, it
Mhm.
goes here. We could, interestingly enough, I think we could augment this data to show every time someone clicked the link. Because it might be useful to know if confidential documents are getting sent out, who clicked there to click the link.
Now, if you just select under send email for one of those documents,
Yeah,
Mhm.
top
I
there.
think that's also where, if somebody actually sent the document via email and not necessarily copied the link,
Oh, yeah.
I think
So
that
you
was,
could say, so basically we have view, we have send, and we have copy. Who should
mhm,
ask? So if you click here or you click here, we should ask the guys if they can write it into this, because this is basically an audit trail.
mhm,
It's what it is. It's an audit trail. We should ask the guys if they could write those to the audit trail for us. That would be a smart idea.
mhm.
Good security. Good. It's a great idea. Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't we do that?
There was a question about just permissions. There are in the security area under roles where you can specify whether you want people to see documents, be able to add documents, any of that. So, just want to make sure.
Oh, I want to talk something more about that if I could.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a bunch of property documents, right? Now, the way this current version of Darwin Cloud is set up for agents, Darwin Cloud for agents currently doesn't allow agents to modify core property information. They can view all the property information you want them to view on, they can view all the property information you want them to do on properties if they're the listing agent or the selling agent. But we don't give them the opportunity for most of the screens in Darwin Cloud. They don't have the ability to like modify core property information or whatever. But some of these documents that are here, if this is an in-house deal and we've got the list agent and we've got the sell agent, some of these documents between the listing agent and the seller maybe shouldn't be sold with the buyer, shared with the buyer or the buyer's agent. You follow me?
Yep.
So if we had another sell agent on this deal, Tom was on the list side, Sally was on the sell side. Tom could see this property because he's on the listing, and Sally could see it too because she's on the buy side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you don't have to give visibility to the Documents tab, but I think it makes sense that you should. But you have a choice when you put documents up here. You can hide them from list and sell side agents by deciding which side should be able to see the document.
Mm-hmm.
So in the settlement document, maybe everybody should be able to see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe there's other documents up here. Maybe there's like a buyer's agency agreement. Maybe the seller shouldn't be allowed to see that. So you can also control which side sees it from here. Anyway, it's just something to keep in the back of your mind. What else?
Oh,
Also on that note of who you show the documents to, Mark, since you can attach agent contracts and stuff to agent records, you may want to be wary of if you give agents, if you're using the agent portal, access to the documents tabs, because if you upload documents about them or warnings about them or whatever, if you don't want them to be able to see any of those documents, you'll want to make sure you don't give them permission to the documents tab.
Well, it's not just agents too. This can be for employees. So
Right.
it's
Agents
very,
are
it's a, right, it's a very common thing to put notes and comments about disciplinary problems with employees that you need to store for legal reasons. You might not want to let employees have, unrestricted access to write-ups that you've done about them and stored online.
Yeah.
You might want to keep that private. What else, Teresa? Anything else?
oh, I don't really see anything else. Does anybody have any questions that they want to throw out there? And since we've
Yeah,
got a little bit of
let's
time.
just open it wide open. All right. Well, then,
No?
if that's,
All right.
well, I mean, that's easy.
Easy enough.
So if that's the case, then we're 2 o'clock tomorrow, right?
Yep, 2 o'clock tomorrow for the Q&A, and then we'll be posting these recordings onto the Account Tech website under the new feature webinars. And so you can view those if you miss anything or want to look at it again.
Great. And we will, and again, so we're here tomorrow at 2 for just a hands-on training. Anybody that wants to get one-on-one training live tomorrow, from 2 to 3, we'll be back covering doc storage.
All right. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for coming today, and we will hopefully see you in the workshop tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.